Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's The Lion King, brought to us by Virgin Interactive. The Lion King for NES, when I originally saw it, I thought it was a bootleg title, but this game was officially released. It is actually the last licensed NES title to come out in Europe, though it never saw a release in North America, and the date for its release is all the way in 1995. This version of The Lion King is basically a really bad port of the Game Boy Lion King. The game is missing pretty much all of its story. In fact, you don't even play as adult Simba, you only play as young Simba, and the game ends before we end up becoming an adult. So here we go with The Lion King for the NES. As you can see, the graphics aren't the absolute worst by any means. They actually didn't do too bad with the colorization, and it looks a little bit better in some ways than the Aladdin port that was officially released on the NES as well, just a little bit before this game. However, controlling Simba and actually being able to attack enemies and platform is a bit on the stiff side. You can see his falling animation is on the slow end of things, and this ends up leading to more problems than it should. Also, grabbing on the ledges and being able to get high enough with your jumps can also sometimes be difficult. The levels that we will be completing are ones that are all included in the other versions of The Lion King. It just so happens that this version only has a couple of those stages. As we make it to the very top here, we'll hit this checkpoint marker before the boss encounter against one of the hyenas. We just basically have to wait for it to stop attacking us, where we can jump on its head again. It'll flash for a few moments, get close to us, try to bite us, which we'll able to easily get around, and then jump on its head once again. Once you've delivered 3 hits to the hyena, you move on instantly to the next level without a whole lot of fanfare. The second level of the game is the Can't Wait to Be King level, or in this case, the main event. It's still the same basic level, where you're going to be using the other animals to help you get through. Because of everything being very slow in this version, animations take forever, especially the monkeys that will throw you around the level itself. As you can see, scrolling is extremely slow. We still have some difficult segments, like where we have to ride the ostrich and dodge and duck underneath a bunch of obstacles and jump over the animals in the backgrounds while doing so. Because of just the overall slowness of everything, though, it's pretty easy to actually get around most things. Be sure to hit the checkpoint marker here before jumping on the tails and start swinging your way across this gap. Due to the limitations of the NES and this being a pretty poor port, this segment in general is actually pretty easy to kind of get through. You can just kind of jump on top of the rhino, instantly get into the monkeys. You don't have to worry about roaring at them and turning them like you do in other versions of this level. So, after just a little bit of trouble, we make it to the end, and now we get a little bonus game where we play as Timon and Pumbaa, or more specifically Pumbaa. We just have to kind of move back and forth and collect the bugs and try to get as many as we possibly can. When doing this, your goal is to collect all of the bugs, but not the spiders, and you don't want any of the bugs to hit the ground or else you instantly end up dying. It's kind of hard at first to tell the difference, but as I'm doing this, you can kind of see which ones are actually the spiders and which ones are the bugs. And while doing this, you also get yourself a couple of extra lives and really just seeing how many of them you can get. It actually is longer to do this bonus game than a lot of the other levels throughout the course of the game. After that thrilling bug collecting and a few extra lives, we now move on to the third level of the game. This one takes place at the Elephant Graveyard. As soon as the level begins, you're immediately attacked by a hyena that's going to jump towards you. So immediately run underneath of it and then return with a jump on top of it in order to do damage. You will have to defeat the hyena in order to get rid of the wall to the left so that we can move on in the stage. Once the hyena has been defeated, head over to the left and drop on down below. You can grab some extra bugs if you want to, just kind of keep moving your way along the bottom. You can skip the next hyena, make sure that you grab onto the bones so that you can swing across the gap here. Drop down, you can grab the extra life if you need another one, but your main goal is just to continue all the way over to the very right till you get here, where you'll have to jump back and forth between these small ledges. You have to deal with these bats throughout the level, but thankfully they're highlighted in blue as you can see, so it's very easy to deal with them. Be sure to hit the checkpoint marker here, and then when you jump to the right, you have to very quickly move up. It's hard to tell because the graphics are just so poor, but you basically have the rushing water that's trying to rise up, and you don't want to get hit by that. Right after that, stay along the top part. You'll have to do a bunch of platforming in order to stay on that top level. You'll pass another hyena as well as plenty of bats, but eventually you'll make it to the far end. After dealing with another hyena, we'll be able to finish up the stage. The hyena battles are all the same though, pretty much. You just have to wait for them to kind of jump over, either bite or walk back and forth. Eventually they'll tire themselves out, and that's when you're able to deliver those hits. Now the next stage is the Stampede. This level, though, looks pretty odd on the NES version. Very plain graphics on the top and bottom of the screen, and then the wildebeest will start coming your way. You can basically just move up and down, though a lot of times you can just stay in one spot. Usually I stay at the top of the screen and just move up and down between this spot and the spot directly below it in order to dodge almost all of the wildebeests that come my way. Because the stage is an auto-scroller and you're pretty much at the mercy of just waiting for them to come your way, it's another one of the lengthier, if not the lengthiest stage in the game itself. Thankfully though, because of how slow they come at you, you have plenty of time to react and quickly get all the way. Even if you have to go down 2 or 3 levels in a row in order to avoid them, you'll be able to easily do that and get back to the top of the screen or wherever you prefer to stay with really no problems. This is made easier, especially considering we're so far to the right of the screen. If they had made it where Simba was closer to the left side, it would be obviously a lot more difficult. But because of his placement, it ends up being an absolute breeze to get through this stage. It may feel like forever, you may even fall asleep while doing it, but eventually the stage will end, and it ends abruptly just like all the other stages, and we're moving on to the next level, which in this case is called Exile. Now, as soon as this level begins, drop on down and deal with the lizard directly below. You have the porcupine enemies that you can roar next to in order to flip them over so they don't end up running into any of their quills. Drop down here, take care of the porcupine, and then use these ledges in the background to swing across the gap. On the far right, which is where we need to go, you'll grab yourself a 1-up before dropping down and be sure to hit this checkpoint marker. Once you hit that, go to the left, dodging out for a couple more of the porcupines. As soon as you make it to this segment, a hyena will jump towards you, but just kind of let it jump over you, and then continue running to the left, drop down, and swing across these gaps to finish up the stage, and move on to the final level of the game in a Hakuna Matata. This level is pretty much the halfway point in the other versions, but in this version, it's the end. We start off immediately by sliding on down multiple platforms until we get to the bottom of the screen here. You don't want to go right on the very bottom, instead you want to jump to this level and head to the right, and then start climbing up the platforms just directly above you. After a few jumps, you'll make it here where you'll have to jump back and forth between these cliffs, which is very easy to do, and then continue doing so by just working your way up more of these cliffs. It can be a bit difficult to kind of jump off the ones here and then reattach just slightly above, but a little bit of practice and you should be able to easily do it. After hitting a checkpoint marker, we're going to slide down a whole bunch more of these platforms. When we make it to the bottom of the screen, run your way over to the right until you make it to the waterfall. Once here, you'll have to watch out. You have a bunch of these logs running down the water itself. They're kind of hard to tell what they are because of the green coloring, but you can use them as platforms to help you climb up and make your way up the waterfall and all the other platforms. When you make it to the top, you will want to go to the right side here, dropping on down. You'll slide all the way to the very bottom. Then, after hitting another checkpoint marker, if you want to do so, you want to drop to the very bottom of this segment. Watch out for the frog enemies. You can easily jump on top of their heads in order to defeat them, and then climb up the next set of platforms, though it can be difficult to get past the one frog, as you can see on that one platform there. At the top, though, is the boss encounter. It's the monkey that we have to deal with in other versions of the game, and here, basically, all we're going to want to do is jump up and attack the rocks that he ends up throwing. You can get a nice little easy pattern of him just kind of bouncing the rock towards you, where you're able to easily jump up in the air, land on top of it, and send the rock back towards him. It only takes a couple of hits, and then you get to sit back and enjoy the ending to The Lion King on the NES. So there you have it, Lion King for the NES. Like I said, this is an officially licensed game, and in fact, bootleg games of the Lion King were done better than this particular version. Just like with Aladdin on the NES, the unlicensed bootleg is actually far superior than the officially licensed one that we got on the NES. Unfortunately, these late NES Disney games didn't come to North America, like Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and this one, but I don't really think we're missing out all that much on them. After the credits finish up, we get one last The Lion King screen, and if we want to, we can reset and play the game all over again. But with that, guys, it's going to wrap up this episode of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.